live pastel painting Friday. So last week I set up a vote for everyone to choose between soft and oil pastels. Most of the comments wanted soft pastels, but the majority of the votes, it was 52 to 48 oil pastel. And I Googled how to pronounce these. These are Sennelier. That's what Google said, so that's what I'm gonna stick with. Sennelier oil pastels. I used them for the first time on a pastel painting live stream last week. So now I can vouch for them. Now I can say that Sennelier oil pastels are good to use for pastel painting. So we're gonna block in the head, and as we're doing this, special thanks to the model Grace for letting me paint your portrait here on YouTube for the Friday pastel painting video. How's everyone doing today? Hey P Gomez Art, welcome, welcome. This is just the black pastel. I'm gonna quickly block this in, and the challenge with oil pastel is about the handling of the oil pastels. And I could say that the cheap ones are a no-go. Don't use the cheap ones except for the background. This is one of the cheap ones here. This is whatever it's called. They're called expressionists. Yeah, use those for the backgrounds, and then save the good stuff for the anything that requires light and shadow or any kind of subtlety. Now, if you're doing more abstract kind of stuff, then that could maybe work, but I like these pastels. In contrast to the soft pastels, I feel like you need more colors for the oil pastels than you do with the soft because they're not that easy to mix. Now we're gonna go ahead and start to mass in the values, light and dark. Of course, our glasses are gonna fit here. I always think it's a good idea to have a indication of the glasses early on. It all looks kind of bumpy in the beginning, and then it'll start to take form as we go. So light and shadow. I like to go in with yellow ochre. Pretty heavy. In the beginning, as you see there, it's pretty heavy. Yellow ochre. And we're going to mix the skin tone directly onto this. So it's going to look a little chaotic at first. So what would Bob Ross say? This is your bravery test or something. This is your bravery test. Now Grace is a art student, college sophomore at the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore. I went there for a year before leaving and then going to Studio Incaminati more than 10 years ago. A little background story. Met Grace and her friend that we painted in watercolor on Monday during a painting session that meets on Saturdays with my friend, the artist friend Karen Warshall. So I hope everyone is okay. I hope everyone's doing well. I know that hurricane was kind of crazy. So hopefully everybody's all right. So yeah, it's gonna look quite chaotic in the beginning. And I have done enough studies with these pastels that I can say that this start, as scary as it may look, is kind of the better way to cover the ground as quickly as you can. So it's yellow ochre and a pink that we're using for the lights mainly right now. So we're going in with these darks. Back to the umber. Get the shadow going. Because you want to get this out of the way as quickly as you can. Hey, Rockflower62. Welcome, welcome. So you got to allow the painting time to develop. And these little spots you see there, they eventually cover them. Find that the oil pastel is more active. It requires more pressure from your hands than the soft pastel, which is what makes this, in my opinion, I think it makes this a little harder to use than the soft pastels. But there's a potential for more reward with these. Hey, Hansel Dog. I think there's a potential for more reward with the soft pastel, especially because it doesn't just kind of fall off the surface as easily when you work with it. Now, obviously, a soft pastel painting will be just fine when you finish it, as long as you leave it, you put it in a frame. The same thing goes with the oil pastel, but there's just kind of more of a sculptural feeling to these. Hopefully everyone's doing well. This is just raw umber. I'm gonna end up buying a bigger piece of this. As you can see, I went right kind of through it really quickly. This is cerulean blue. So similar to the process of soft pastels, you do have to layer these colors in order to get more specificity. But with these, with the center layer, you have to be more broad than with the soft pastel. So big chunks, basically big sections of the surface. Hansel dog, oh, had shoulder surgery. Oh no. Hope everything's all right there. So we're here 4 days a week, everyone. So if you have to miss one day, Lisa, don't worry that you have to watch this as a pre-recorded. It's all good. We'll be here 4 days a week. So you've got plenty of time. The raw umber is really useful for placing parts. Just like with oil paint, it's not so difficult to work into. Glasses, again, just have a glimpse of where the glasses are going to fit. You're going to add them in and subtract them so many times, working this way. And if you've never worked this way, it's a lot of fun. It may be scary if you're used to more controlled starts. Appreciate all the likes. We've got 11 likes already. Again, just guesstimate where the glasses are going to fit, because you're going to go and take them out, put them back in, take them out almost all the time. So it's just good to have a trace of them there. Go in with the background now. This is the cheap pastel. This is the expressionist. And I would use the cheap pastel for this exclusively, not the expensive one. Not that Sennelier is that expensive, but I'd rather use a 78-cent piece of pastel than a $3 one. So you do gotta put some pressure on here. And this helps me get the value range for the corner there. Randy, welcome. Welcome. Yeah, you definitely need more colors with the oil pastels, because the mixing itself takes a tad bit more work, in my opinion, than with the soft. And if everyone wants, we could just alternate between the soft and the oil pastel, or I could make it interesting and have a vote each time. It's pretty neat. It said something about like 500. There were 500 votes. 500 people were. It was pretty close. 52% to 48%. Pretty close. So a lot of cerulean blue and the pink. Cerulean blue, pink, yellow ochre. A little glimpse of light for the glasses. Blocking in this entire shape. So the challenge here is just to create basically like an oil painting, the mask of the face. So I'm gonna have to cover right into here and go dark, add the light back into it. The next closest value was yellow ochre. So going in with the yellow ochre. The cerulean blue. Like I said, the raw umber is really useful here. the white. Now we're going to go in with blue. So you're going back and forth to create the skin tone. It's a dark brown, closer to the red. I've got these linked in the description box for you. We're constantly alternating till we get the tonality that we want. Then we'll start to refine it. A lot of mixing with the blue. I like this cerulean blue because it's not that strong. It doesn't overpower the other colors. Oh, thanks, Grace. I hope that we're getting a little bit more consistent, or I'm getting a little more consistent with these materials. Oil pastel is a very different layering process than the soft pastel. So there was a bit of a learning curve for it, but definitely it helps to have more colors. In particular, the cerulean blue. I wouldn't be able to do this without the cerulean blue. Cancel dog, you like the oil pastels? Yeah, the texture that you get from it is, I think it's a nicer texture than the soft pastel. But to get that texture, you really gotta work for it. See, like this, like in order to get that flat texture. You can't just build it subtle. Kind of have to go deep into it, which is like I'm assuming why the texture of the finish is somewhat like a Rembrandt. Yeah, the smoothness is, yeah, it's really nice. I can see why people don't like it though, because it is difficult. You know, if you're not comfortable working with basically a big mass of color, it can get pretty difficult. This is similar to the way you build an oil painting. Not exactly the same way, but working with big shapes of mass or hatching there, cross hatching. Yeah, this Sennelier brand did a really good job with these pastels. Those cheap ones are, they could work, but that's all I got to say. Yeah, it is messier than the soft on paper. Out here, much cleaner. There's nothing on the ground. There's nothing on the easel. But on the paper, it's messier than the soft. It's because you go through so many of these big puddles, basically of oil pastel, and you could use your fingers to blend with them as well. You'll see me start to do that. It's a very hands-on material. So it's messier on paper, but cleaner for the studio. And of course, there's a blender. This is the pigmentless or whatever this is, the blender. So see how I can use this to start to blend in the shapes. And all we're doing is basically just mixing to get our color. Once we get our color, we won't do very much else to alter it. I'm gonna adjust my camera. It seems to be too bright. Okay, that's closer to what it should look like. You notice that many soft pastel users online keep a small vacuum. Oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. Keep a vacuum. That's if they're doing really big stuff, I'm guessing. Especially if you start to develop any kind of allergy to the pastel. That would make sense. Or they may be messier than me. Could be. I'm not that messy with the pastels, I don't think. With the soft pastels, I mean. But you see how smooth this is starting to get? So it's really unique to the oil pastel. Yeah, and there's a reason these layers are more expensive. Because you can do a lot of neat stuff with them. Yeah, could be messy. They could be messier than me, who knows? Wow, appreciate the likes, everyone. We're at 16. Cerulean blue. This blue here is really important for skin tones like the ones we're painting here. You need it. You pretty much need it. Like I said, with the oil pastels, there's so much potential with them. I think they're not easy to use by any means. Soft pastel is much easier, in my opinion. But the potential with the texture is worth the extra effort. I said your name right, Randy? That's good. There's so much potential with these. And I like that this paper is it's smoother. It's definitely smoother than the Canson. This is the mixed media uh, paper. So it's a firmer paper. It is a lot smoother, thicker. I didn't quite like it as much for the soft pastels, but it works pretty well with the oil pastels. You could even do the oil pastels on canvas. I did that the first pastel live stream, but that was with the cheaper ones. But there's no need to do that. I would rather just work on paper than on canvas, just to keep the cost low. Next week's pastel Hansel a lion. That's interesting. No, I don't have any plans for next one. I mean, we could do a lion, and we haven't done an animal portrait in a while. So a pastel of a lion. That would be interesting. Pastel of a lion. What does everyone want me to do with the pastels? I mean, I can't do everything, but do you want me to paint a lion? Do you want me to paint? I typically just stick with portrait because that's what I think people tend to want. But if you want a landscape with watercolor, if you want a still life with oil paint, um, if you want a one thing I will say is the landscape with pastel might not be a good idea because you got to cover a lot of ground. So perhaps if you want an animal, that would be a possibility with pastel. So what would everyone like to see? Typically, typically it's portraits that people want, but I'm open to what you want me to do. Just the head of the lion. I think we've done a lion before. Not on a live stream. Maybe we have. Hard to keep track of things. Or a portrait. I mean, I'm open to different ideas. I have considered landscape and watercolor, just because watercolor portrait is beating the daylights out of me. It's so difficult. Thanks, Grace. The earlier suggestions was about animal portraits or human portraits. Could paint a tiger and then just everybody sing "Eye of the Tiger." Yeah, I could paint a tiger and wear a Rocky Balboa outfit. Even though I'm way too overweight to look like Rocky Balboa. Thanks, Grace. Open to any suggestions. Yeah, the pastel's finally starting to take form. And it's a little more, this one's a little more difficult because it's a frontal, closer to frontal. I chose it on purpose to have a little more of a challenge with it. Looks like we don't, no landscape fans here. That's okay. Oddly enough, on my YouTube, the most trending live stream is a video called Distant Mountains. If anyone has any clue why that's trending, let me know. I'm curious about it. That was in 2020. I have no clue why that one's trending more than every other live stream. Yes says, yeah, do a lion. Maybe we can do one of those vote things again. I'm assuming that people are interested, I guess, more about the patterns for the lion as opposed to the actual structure of the lion. I'm thinking that might be a thing. I don't know. See, eyes can be brilliant subjects. Saw a portrait book. Cannot remember the painter. I have the, but one had called "Eye of the Tiger," Tiger Woods. Wide, narrow, included under side of the hat brimmed down to cheekbone. Animal heads are very different. Yeah. Oh yeah. Janet, when using professional soft pastels, you need good ventilation. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's a good reason to be using the oil pastels. I did read something about that before, but I didn't think I was putting that much pastel into the air. But it is hard to know. Um, dare I say it, honestly, they're kind of the same thing to me after this much. By this much, I mean a week of switching over to the oil. It's a different layering process, yeah, but after a while, it's kind of the same thing, except for the fact that you need more colors. But they're pretty similar. Probably not a popular idea. Brilliant orange colors of the lion's mane. Grace, you painted a lion's head with a range of colors. Oh, cool. The yellow I'm using is yellow ochre. I was just using a brush. I also have a transparent mixing value. Let's see, Isaby, you wrote, so nice for values and premixed colors. Yeah, oil pastel. Yeah, definitely for the premixed colors. Yeah, exactly. That's why I have this pink. I need a pink that's a little bit cooler than this one, because I'm gonna have to see. I go into that to adjust that edge, and then gotta go back into it with the blue, and then I gotta use the medium to reduce the scratchiness of it, kind of like broad direction, then fingers or brush to make it even softer, softening an edge pretty close to I'd say an oil painting type edge, like that. It's just called a transparent medium. It looks like white, but see, it doesn't have anything on it. It just helps to, uh, I guess, like what I did there was to make the texture a little less textured. Hey, Alvaludo. Welcome, welcome. These are Sennelier oil pastels. This is my second live stream using these, so I can now say that I do recommend them. They are linked in the description box for you. I've got some Amazon links. Well, no worries, Giselle. Thanks for joining. Now that things are going to start to get a little more subtle. Oh, look at that. We're right on point. We've got 9 minutes till the hour. Now that things are going to start to get a little more subtle, I'm not going to be moving around as quickly as I was in the beginning. Well, thanks, Giselle. So we're gonna do smaller shapes at a time now. Yeah, so if the soft pastels are that dangerous, I'm gonna have to do more research. Guess it's a good thing we're using the oil pastels. Less mess around the studio with the oil pastel, but more messy up here. Alwaludu, you have Reeves. What is that? BFK something paper? It's been a while since I heard of that paper. It's a good paper from my memory. Remember I said we're gonna move the glasses around as we develop the face, so don't worry about how the face looks so much. Yeah, so it looks like tomorrow I'll be painting a pumpkin. I usually paint a pumpkin for the neighborhood where my in-laws live. So maybe I'll post a picture of it on Instagram. Probably will be maybe something Marvel related, uh like that Deadpool and Wolverine. I'll probably paint the Wolverine from that scene or that movie with acrylics, of course. I really don't know how I would live stream that. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it anyway because copyright. But if anyone hasn't done any pumpkin painting, it's actually a pretty fun activity, especially if you have portrait painting experience. People tend to really like seeing paintings on pumpkins for some reason. Reeves Oil Pastels? Ah, I've never heard of them. I'm sure they're good. I know the brand Reeves. Oil Pastel live tutorial. That is this. We are currently in an oil pastel live tutorial. This is oil pastel. It's not soft pastel. Oops, did I put the wrong title? I think I put oil pastel. Well, you're right. This is not much of a tutorial. I can understand that. These streams are mainly real-time painting where, you get to hang out and talk to me, kind of like a podcast. That's what I've been moving towards, is something like a podcast or painting podcast. That's the direction that I'm heading. Then of course I'll be selling these, because you gotta make more income in this world. I feel like the oil pastels would be a lot less anxiety to ship than the soft pastels, just because like you shake them around and they'll be fine. I worry about the soft pastels. So we will be selling out all of this. Everything. Whether you want it or not is a different story. But yes, this is oil pastel. Okay, and art and reviews. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Oh, I'm glad you like these sessions. This is a bit of a gamble for me doing these, because I'm kind of evolving from my previous content to something totally different, which is what we're doing here. So hopefully you like the content. I'm really glad that you do. It's a gamble. I don't think I would spray the oil pastels, though I can sacrifice one just to see what would happen. I don't know. I've never done it. I can sacrifice one and let you know. I got some practice. These are my practice. Right, this is what I did earlier before this. And you see the backside. This was from last week. Just practice. I could sacrifice one of these, spray it, and see what you think. If it falls apart, I'll let you know. Animal painting with oil pastel, or what? Uh, Live session on animal painting with oil paint. Oh, okay. With oil paint. Yeah, we can do that. It seems like there's a lot of uh, suggestions for the animal art, the lion or a tiger. Now the question is whether to do it in oil paint, watercolor, acrylic, pastel. Now that's the real question. Which material? So and my art reviews wants it to be an oil paint. I could do that. Any material you want, we can do. I mean, the animal art. Okay, so it looks like we are just about at the hour. Anyone that may be new, remember that we take a break every hour, just a couple minutes, as these are live streams. It's not good to sit for 3 hours straight. So I'm gonna take a break, and I typically play a video of my Shiba Inu, Hugo, who was trained since a puppy to do a bunch of fantastic tricks. Hopefully you'll enjoy the video of Hugo while I'm on break. And when we return, we'll get into the fun game of subtle trivia, if you want me to. If not, we can talk about anything you want me to talk about. That's, of course, YouTube friendly. Well, maybe that's true, Hansel. I'm not sure. Watercolor can get pretty bright. So it all depends on the material. But I think the most chromatic is oil paint and oil pastel. I think those are the most chromatic out of all of them, just because they're the most opaque out of all of them. When we're talking about a color, the richness of the color, I think it's hard to beat oil paint and oil pastel. All that said, we are going to take a short break. I'm going to play the video of Hugo. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to, and we'll be back really soon. Just a couple minutes. Alrighty then. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let's return now with the subtleties stage on this painting. Oil pastel portrait. Now, what happened here? Network breaking. Oh, no worries. We'll be here. We're here 4 days a week, 3 hours at a time. Don't you worry. We will be here. Now let's get into the subtleties. And let's see if, first of all, let me know if you want the subtleties trivia. Let me know. Do you want me to be quiet and paint? Do you want subtleties trivia? Lately, I'm asking more questions from you. So on average, we have a couple more people than when we first started, which is awesome. It was the plan all along. So let me know if you want to do subtle trivia. Which, what it is I just ask questions and you get a point every time you get the answer correct. And then whoever has the most points at the end will be the champion of the night or the day, depending on what time it is for you. Let me know. Because I had a couple uh, suggestions to not do it yesterday, but I did it anyway. So I want to take your opinion into account. Just like the lion. If you want me to paint the lion in oil paint, let me know. Although typically people want the portrait in oil paint, the human portrait. Yeah, we can do 2 days and 2 days without. The one that would probably be without is definitely going to be watercolor. Watercolor is a beast. Like, it is the most difficult material in the world. I'm exaggerating. But for me, it's a very difficult material, the watercolor. What would I do on the off 2 days? I don't know. I guess try to tell you what I'm doing in the painting. I guess try to teach something maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I'm moving slightly away from teaching. So really, if you have questions about what I'm doing specifically, then please feel free to ask. But yeah, I don't know. I read that some people do prefer when I don't talk that much, which makes sense. I did watch some of these older videos on other people painting, and I was just fine with them not talking. These are long videos. It's basically a feature-length movie each time. Okay, a discussion. Yeah, we could have a discussion. What do you have in mind? What should we talk about? I guess that's something I should probably plan ahead of time. But open to suggestions. I'm open to suggestions. 3 hours do fly by. I cut off an edge to this eraser so I can use it to move shapes around a little easier. We can have a discussion about something, as long as it's not controversial. So you get more insights from me during subtlety without trivia. Limit the number of questions to 10 or 15. That's a possibility, and all I got to do is write them down. 10 or 15 and just alternate. It's a possibility. I really like the texture that we get from these paintings, the oil pastel. I do need a ultramarine. I don't have an ultramarine. That would have been kind of useful for her eyes. But it is what it is. It'll be just fine. Yeah, it is concerning though about the soft pastel getting into the air. Yeah, art movements would be fine. Uh, well, yeah, it would be difficult without the talking, I agree. Considering birds, animals, then a turkey, vulture, and condor heads and colored pencil. Yeah, we could paint a turkey. I mean, we are approaching November, so we could paint a turkey. Um, you know what's interesting? I saw two bald eagles. Random story. I saw two bald eagles flying in the air. Of course, where else would they fly? But um, saw them flying yesterday. Thought that was pretty neat. Two bald eagles. Definitions of Impressionism, your vision without glasses. I guess I can talk a little bit about what I'm trying to do in this stage here. So I'm adding the subtleties just like I would with an oil painting, but I'm putting in almost like small washes, I guess. Like that, like adding clay to a sculpture. This is a very sculptural material. A vulture for the head of Halloween. It's a possibility. I mean, we're definitely gonna do something Halloween oriented. When is Halloween anyway? When is October 31st? When is Halloween? It's on a Thursday. Okay. So Halloween is on a Thursday. That means it's acrylic. It's gonna be an acrylic Halloween. Now, of course, we can't do copyrighted stuff like Freddy versus Jason or whatever. Um, or like the Blair Witch Project, but perhaps something kind of Halloween themed. We can figure something out. Figure it out together. Just like your portraits, you need animals with personality or real attitude. All right, we're adding more of the white. So we can add a plane change here. So in this stage, it's very tricky. So maybe overdo something like that and then overdo something like this. And then make it more subtle. See, this is why I like the trivia. I don't have to think that much about what I'm saying. We had a small exodus of people that left. I'm adding the blue. To the white, which will mix with the skin tone underneath. The challenge is going to be how to soften all that. I could use my finger. I could use the eraser. I'm going to go with this flat thingy here. I once heard someone refer to watching a painting as like watching water boil. So I don't want it to be like that boring for you. So that's why I had subtle trivia. We could play some games as well. Come up with something. Oh, thanks, Grace, because of the feel and emotion. Long ago, people used to tell me that they just liked when I painted and didn't really say anything. But I can understand how that can get kind of boring. Let's think about, I like the idea of what you want me to paint. It's like I said, if anyone knows about why my Distant Mountains live stream from 2020 is so popular, let me know. I have no clue. If you've seen that one, let me know. I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that we painted the Loch Ness Monster in there, but I have no clue why that one did so well. I mean, I'm glad it did. It's probably the one video that's responsible for me doing these streams. The hope's to create another one of those. As a content creator, it's kind of like gambling a little bit in the sense that you don't know. It's like you push the button or whatever. This is how I've only ever been to a casino once before in my life. I don't really like casinos, but you put a slot machine, you put your quarter in. This video is like a quarter. You're putting a quarter in there, and sometimes you hit the jackpot. And that's what happened with the Distant Mountains. It hit the jackpot. I don't know why, I don't know how. No clue why it did. But somebody watching this stream currently has probably seen it. And if you didn't, I'd be very surprised, because that just doesn't make sense with YouTube. So I have no clue. No clue. You know, I would think that people would be more interested in this, but that shows you how much I know about the internet. So every value change is a small percentage, a small change with respect to the earlier stages where you're putting in light and shadow. and things are just really fluid. This is the same as with any other material, though with something like, say, watercolor, it's like 10 times more difficult. So you're changing a value a small degree lighter or darker, and a value that's small enough, a plane change that's small enough, like that, can be kind of grouped into an edge. A gradation of an edge is kind of, to what it seems like to me, is somewhat like a really small plane. If you think about it, there are no edges, there are planes. At least that's my idea. See, I dropped a piece of pastel and it didn't break. All in one piece. It's got some of Hugo's fur on it, but it's all in one piece. And anyone that's wondering, this is how I keep my pastel. It's on a little container. So let's talk about the differences between oil pastel and soft pastel. For everyone watching, do you work with either oil pastel or soft pastel? Or maybe you don't work with pastel and you're just an oil painter or an acrylic painter that's just here for, to hang out, which would be pretty awesome. But what do you think are the differences for you when it comes to oil pastel versus soft pastel? And some of you are going to be more interested in one versus the other. I don't know how that many people that do both. What's interesting is how you use them. That's funny. I think I think if soft pastel is really that dangerous, then I'll probably just stick with the oil pastel. Just because to me they're not that different after having enough experience with the two. By enough experience, I mean not that much, but they don't vary that much, to be honest, in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind in the next couple months. Hey, Rockflower62, you don't work with Pastel, but nervous to try. All right, no worries. I'm so glad to have you here. And anyone else sharing a similar story. Yeah, definitely if you're interested in trying soft pastel, oil pastel, any other medium, definitely don't buy a set at first. Just buy the Zorn palette. With soft pastel, I basically was able to get away with the Zorn palette. With this, not so much because I guess the tinting strength of the pastel is just so opaque compared to the soft. The soft you can mix a little, it's a little easier to mix it. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but the oil pastel you gotta be careful with say yeah, if you gotta be careful not to buy only a few of them because once you mix from your blue to your yellow, all these little mixtures, it's gonna get more complicated to get a subtle neutral just because they're so overpowering. So that's why I needed something like a blue. I would have been able to get that with yellow, ochre, and black with the soft pastels, but because these are both so dark, I wouldn't be able to use the transparency of the paper to get that effect, if that makes any sense. And not having a firm or a sharp point on the pastels with both of them, with the soft pastel and with the oil pastel, I think it's kind of like equivalent to working with a big brush in oil painting. So that's a good thing. Also saves you from having to sharpen your pastels all the time. Who wants to do that? Yeah, let's have a little discussion here. What is everyone's preferred material? I'm assuming it's probably going to be a split between acrylic and oil paint. What is everyone's favorite material to work with? Does anyone here use oil pastels? That'll be another one. It seems like there was more interest in the oil pastels than the soft. Yeah, this is why I like the concept of the trivia. Seems everyone's drawn a blank. Or you must be so fascinated with the painting that you don't mind. So you have soft pastels, so you've ever opened the box? Oh no, don't worry about commenting when you're driving. No, no, no. Don't do that, Giselle. Definitely don't do that. I appreciate you still watching though. Just be careful. People drive a little crazy. But yeah, the texture of the oil pastel, you can't really beat it. It's way, way different, and it's just like oil paint pretty much. It has the richness in the color, it has the texture, but it's so difficult. It's so difficult to get into just because of the messiness. You have to be okay with it being a mess for a while. Then, like we're doing now, you pull it together. But you have to be alright with the messiness at first. And I understand why some people wouldn't want that. Oil paint on its own works just fine. Acrylic on its own works just fine. But I really like that we can cover the surface. What I mean is all of these little holes, we can cover them. I know that there's still some out there, like right there, but that's something we can cover with the pastel. So it gives it more of a 3D kind of look, just like oil painting. Grace, your only oil painting was a copy of a print, two white horses. Oh wow. Yeah, I mean oil painting has its distinct advantages over acrylic, but it's high maintenance, but not a problem if you're working at it consistently. Same thing with oil pastel. I think it's got a little more challenges up front than the soft, but I do think it's definitely worth it. No worries about the typo. Yeah, it seems like oil paint is more, something that people are more interested in. But, I think the challenge behind learning all these materials is, very, in my opinion, it's a very good challenge to take on. All right, let's cover the other side of the background. And yes, of course, this is going to be different from the background in the picture. But it's the aesthetic that I already knew that I was going to do early on. Like right in the beginning, I already knew I was going to do this. I like this color. It's almost like a chocolate rain kind of color. And you can tell a huge difference between this pastel and that. This is the cheap one. This is why people tend to, not like oil pastel. Oy, oy, oy. Yeah, no. Just use it for the background. The cheap stuff. Oy, oy, oy. Yeah, it's just... What it is, it's not as oily as the other one. It's not as oily, so the application is rough. It's nasty. But in theory, it's the same stuff. Oh, you did mixed media there, Grace. Awesome. Rockflower 62. He started with oil paint last October. Oh, so it's been a year. Yeah, charcoal is a great way to learn to work with masks. I mean, so is pastel. It helps you with your oil painting for sure. Yeah, this is just so much cleaner for the air. And it looks more like oil painting, I guess, than the soft pastel. It's got that kind of reflective quality that oil paint has. We're adding the planes for the hair. Of course, before I did that, I knew that I needed the background to be covered. Last thing you want to do is add the hair and then Have to work around the hair to put the background in. Though I'm sure I've done that many times. Don't recommend it. Let's get rid of these little dots. That's our little blender tool. So this just helps to fill in the dots on the paper. Hair has planes, just like anything else. So make sure you paint them in there. Planes, planes, and more planes. Blondish color hair is a mix of many different colors. But you can use blues, yellow ochres, oranges, reds, anything you want, as long as you're focusing on the planes. So use the blending tool with oil pastel in order to avoid anything looking overly sharp, like that, and to cover these little holes. In the background, it's kind of a nuisance, but with enough patience, like over here and here, and then over here, we cover all the little spots that we don't want. And it'll be flat, smooth, just like an oil painting. Whoops, that's the wrong pastel to use for that. The black, yellow, red. Black, yellow, red. And there was a little blue that went into it, but now you see the strands of hair start to appear, or the planes of hair, I should say. A little blending tool. Wonder if we can use this to get rid of these dots. Probably not. Yeah, these soft, or not soft, these are cheap oil pastels. Not the ones I'm using currently, don't get confused. These are the Sennelier that I'm using for this, and then the background is just this cheap uh, expressionist cheap thing for this part. So we'll be taking a break in about 3 minutes. Cerulean blue, definitely the superstar pastel of this one. This is the pigmentless medium. Pretty much have to wash my hands after every break or during every break. So we're about to go on break anyway. Remember, we take a break every hour. This will be the final break. When we return, we'll finish up this pastel painting, oil pastel painting. Okay, so we'll take a break for just a little bit. We will come back and finish this one up. Anyone that may be new, I play a video of my Shiba Inu, Hugo. So I'll be gone for just a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to. And we'll be right back. Alrighty then. Let's finish this painting up. And like I said, there's pros and cons to the oil pastel versus the soft pastel. I would say that the texture alone of the oil pastel is one of the main reasons to use it versus the soft. And I guess the fact that it doesn't get all in the air like the soft. Although I didn't really have a big problem with it when I was using the Rembrandt soft pastels. The subtleties are more difficult with the oil pastel. In general, the oil pastel is a tad bit more difficult, in my opinion, to do this kind of stuff than the soft. You have more control with the soft. But the soft pastel is, the finish of it is not quite as smooth as the oil pastel. So I guess in the long run, the oil pastel has more, potentially more long run benefits than the soft, but the soft is easier to use and you may have a better time using it. But if you preserve your soft pastel in a frame, in a glass enclosed frame, then you have no worries about anything, getting onto the paper or whatever. But yeah, just like I have to kind of work for that soft, flat plane. This can be one of the cons to the oil pastel. Is you really have to, it's a hands-on job. It's a hands-on approach. It's a hands-on challenge to get this to be smooth. For people that work well with, say, if you have a background in sculpture, then you might have a better time with these. You could use something like a Q-tip as well, but I like this because you can shovel the paint around and get the effects that you want. Hey Roger, well thank you. Thanks for watching from Norway. It feels so quiet without the subtle trivias. But yeah, let me try to explain things a little bit better. As I do that, those of you that are watching, let me know where you're watching from, and I hope everyone's safe. I know that what in the world just happened? The hurricane was pretty bad. Hope everyone's all right. So where in the world are you watching from? So you have to really work with a tool to blend out the oil pastels, whether you use a Q-tip, the eraser, a chopped edge of the eraser on a pencil, or this is a painting knife, a Princeton Catalyst painting knife. Thanks for watching from Scotland. And we got Benji here. Benji, what's up? Yo. Uh, well, I'm on YouTube till about 6:50 6:50 or till 7. Yeah, and then I'll probably head to the academy afterwards. Yeah, no problem. Did you want to play some 8 ball or something? Cool, cool. Yeah, so I should be out by like 7, so maybe like 7:30. Um, whatever is most convenient. I mean, I can text you, but probably won't say while I'm on YouTube. Yeah, that's all good. All right, see ya. All right, that was Benji. So we painted his portrait a couple weeks ago. His portrait and his fiance's portrait. So shout out to you, Benji. You're on YouTube again. We needed someone to talk to. It was too quiet. It was too quiet, everyone. Here, you can actually see the difference. I don't know if you can with the resolution of the camera. On the left is the cheap oil pastel. This one, Expressionist. This is a cheap one. And on the right, you can see the Sennelier. This is the more expensive one on the right. Now you see how the one on the right is slightly more glossy than the one on the left. Benji, it's all good. So you can see the difference between the cheap one. It's like it's it's scratchy. Like it feels scratchy. Whereas the more expensive one, not that much more expensive, but the more expensive one is uh more oily. I guess. Yeah, it's more oily, it's softer. And you don't have that problem at all with the soft pastels. So that's another benefit to the soft pastels is you don't have to worry about stuff like that because they're all soft. No problem, Benji. No problem. Jeanette, thanks for watching from New York. Grace in Scotland. Yeah, I kind of missed the subtle trivia. Maybe I'll just throw the subtle trivia in anyway towards the end. See if anyone can defeat Grace. She's the undefeated. But yeah, Benji, don't worry. I'll text you the details. I heard Dion's having tournaments, the 9-ball tournaments on Friday nights, so I'm kind of hoping maybe that tournament's going on. So yeah, we'll have a little bit of subtlety trivia just because the silence is too loud. So let's see if anyone can defeat Grace. The the first question is gonna be, what's more beginner friendly, oil pastel or soft pastel? What is more beginner friendly? Oil pastel or soft pastel? More than one answer can apply. What's more beginner friendly? Oil pastel or soft pastel? You get 1 point if you answered correct. There goes Grace, of course. The undefeated, undisputed champion of subtle trivia. Oil pastels are non-toxic and middle of the okay, yeah. Yeah, so oil pastels are arguably more beginner friendly in the sense that the pigment doesn't get all over the place. But soft pastels are easier to learn, easier to pick up. So point goes to both Jeanette and Grace. Remember, I said multiple answers are acceptable because all you have to do is just provide more reasons for your answer and you get the point. So Jeanette and Grace are tied for the lead here. Um, the next one, this is going to be about Pastel. I just mentioned it recently. What is the difference between the cheap oil pastel and the Sennelier? What is the difference between the cheap oil pastel and the Sennelier? For 1 point, this one is only one answer. So for 1 point, what I've described it not too long ago. What is the main difference between the Sennelier and the cheap oil pastel? Yep, point goes to Jeanette. I'm surprised. Oh, more expensive pigment, more pigment in the expensive one. That is also an answer, but what I specifically said was the oil, the shininess is what I said. That one was more about kind of like quoting what I said. So, yes, the difference is in the oiliness. There's more oil in the Thenelier, at least from what I can tell by using them. Oh, the advertisement got you. EOK 322, you were so close. 322, you were so close. Yeah, subtle trivia is the way to go. I can't stand the silence. Um, so that point goes to Jeanette. Jeanette is in the lead, 2-1 against Grace. All right, alrighty then. Next point. There are multiple correct answers, but the answer that makes the most sense will get the point for this one. How would you define a plane in a painting? How would you define a plane change? How would you define a plane itself? How would you define it? The point will go to the fastest, most logical answer, or someone that makes me laugh. Remember, all jokes are a point as well. If you make me laugh, you get a point. Benji, you get a point because you made me laugh because you joined. Benji gets a point automatically because he made me laugh. Okay, close, close. Right away. Change an angle by Grace. Alder by the value. Angela value. Jeanette, three-dimensional structure is the most logical one. Okay, so a plane, as I define it, is a flat sheet of paper in three-dimensional space, or a flat surface in three-dimensional space. Depending on the position of the plane, it will have a certain value with respect to the light. So the most logical answer was three-dimensional structure, as it is a flat plane in space. So Jeanette 3-1 against Grace. This is getting quite entertaining. Okay, as I continue to soften these edges. Next up for 1 point. Again, you get the points with the most logical answer first. How do you define the edge between light and shadow? How do you define the edge between light and shadow? Most logical answer for 1 point. Most logical answer first for 1 point. How do you define the edge between light and shadow? Or if you make me laugh, you get a point. EOK322. The surface, I think you were referring to, well, it is a surface. That's true. But we need a tad bit more than a surface. Tad bit more. Jeanette said overlapping value. It is, in some sense. The shadow is kind of overlapping its way into the light. Kind of. A change on the plane. Yes, that is part of it. Yes. So the most logical answer to how do you define the edge between the light and shadow? So most logical answer for 1 point. More than just describing what the thing is. A long body and 2 wings. Oh man, here we go. I hope you're not typing while you're driving. Be careful with that. How do you define the edge between light and shadow? Most logical answer or make me laugh. A long body and 2 wings is close. Oh, okay, no worries. I'll see you Tuesday, Giselle. I'm glad you arrived safely. How do you define the edge between light and shadow? So a little different from the usual trivia questions. You see how necessary this tool is for these gradations. So Alder wrote, before shadow tends to be a cooler color. That could be so in this instance, but it could be different in another painting if there's a reflection. But I think you're right about this one. I think you're right. Yeah, there needs to be some more of a cooler color here. Benji said, dang, it was on Jeopardy last night. Oh man, Benji gets another point. All right, Benji's got 2 points for making me laugh. All right, so the logical answer to how do you define the difference between the light and the shadow edge is the shadow plane is perpendicular. That's it. That's the formal definition. Parallel This is parallel, is what I meant to say. It's even if you got them confused, I would have given you the point. Shadow is parallel to the light. Everything else is closer to perpendicular. That was the answer. Another acceptable answer would have been really difficult. How do you define the edge between light and shadow? Really difficult. That would have been another answer. It is the most difficult edge in the entire painting between light and shadow. The most difficult edge is the edge between light and shadow. But yes, its shadow is parallel to the light source. That's relative to the main light source. Next up, for 1 point, this is going to be more of your typical trivia. What in oil painting, what is liquid used for? For 1 point. In oil painting, what is liquid used for? Now look at that edge. So this is exactly what I was trying to get. Yeah, Alder, you were correct about the cooler color here. Thank you for that. You were totally correct about that. All right. So I think Jeanette's got 3, Grace has 2, Benji has 2. I think that's the score. Although that's a lot to keep track of while trying to paint something. Okay, Jeanette gets that one. It dries faster. It does dry faster. Where's Grace? Yeah, you usually answer that one fast. You said you only have one. Oh, well, my counting is off. There's Grace. I was wondering where you were. Okay, that one goes to Jeanette. Now, next one. Your typical subtlety trivia question. Which painter challenged an art critic to a duel over a silly review? Which painter challenged an art critic over a duel over a silly review? Perfect. Now we're getting the planes that we wanted to get. And it does take a while. You gotta be patient with these oil pastels. But see, if it wasn't as like soft and I guess oily as it is, it would be very difficult to get these transitions. Oh, Alder Boogerov. Alder gets a point for Boogerov. Grace, no. Caravaggio challenged, I think it was a soldier, or I forget exactly who. But no, not an art critic. Although I'm sure Caravaggio could have done that to an art critic. I'm sure. Which artist challenged an art critic to a duel over a silly review? That was pretty funny. I can't imagine Bugaro challenging someone to a duel. Caravaggio did have a go at everyone. I can't stop thinking about that now. Bouguereau challenging someone to a duel. What would they say to Bouguereau? Your drawing's a little bit off. Bouguereau smacks the art critic upside the head with his paint palette. Dali, I don't know. Dali could have done that, but no. I'll give you a hint. This was a scene in the movie or the documentary The Impressionists. Manet. Okay, another point goes to Jeanette. Grace, what's going on? I know you knew that answer. It was Manet. It was Manet. And he challenged Zoller, somebody named Zoller, to the art critic Zoller to a duel. I mean, talk about sensitive. Manet was so sensitive. Manet was a really sensitive person. Okay. Next up for 1 point. What is the most, and there's multiple answers to this, but what would you consider to be one of the most toxic oil paints to use? Multiple answers are accepted. What would you consider to be one of the most toxic oil paints you could use? Lead white is one of the answers. I'll allow three more. Three more. Vermilion. Okay, so Grace has one. Alder has another one. Ultramarine is not toxic, not that toxic, so not ultramarine. Close, close. So 2 more points, 2 more answers are available. I said there's a couple correct choices here. So we've got lead white and we've got vermilion. What are 2 more toxic, potentially really toxic oil paints that you could use? Genuine manganese blue, that's true, but you've already got the 1 point, Alder, for vermilion. We've got 2 more possible answers for two new people. That is true. Cobalt is one of the toxic ones. Yes. Cobalt, I think, is used in batteries. So one left. So a point goes to Jeanette, Alder, and Grace. 1 more point left for this question. Most toxic oil paints that you can use. Or you could make me laugh. Okay, going once. Going twice. And closed. All right, so the point goes to Grace. Alder. Roger, right there, right there. So Grace, Alder, Jeanette, and Roger's so close. All right, Roger, you were right there. So yes, yellow something. That is true. That is one of them. So close, so close. So the other toxic pigments in oil paint that you could use are cadmium yellow, cadmium red, cadmium green, orpiment, minium, uh, lead tin yellow, chrome green. Those would have all been acceptable as potentially hazardous paints to use. But the worst of them all is orpiment, which is a yellow. So very close, very close. Roger, you were so close. Shirley's green or any others with arsenic. There you go. The arsenic. Yes, orpiment. Anything with arsenic is probably not a good idea. Yep, yep. Benji, cadmium red is a thing. You're correct. You're correct, Benji. It is a thing, and I actually have the pigments. This is the pigment. So if you open this and shake it around, you're probably gonna get real sick. So cadmium red is potentially very, very toxic. Next up for, yes, genuine Naples yellow is also toxic. So keep track of your points. Grace, Alder, Jeanette got the point. Roger was very close. Yellow something is correct. Cadmium yellow would have been one of them. Cadmium anything would have been one of them. But yes, genuine Naples yellow is, you don't want to mess with that one. And let's start to solidify the glasses now. Okay, next question for 1 point. And of course, multiple answers are available. I'll let you know how many I will accept. All right. What is the biggest mistake that beginner oil painters make? For 1 point, what is the biggest mistake that beginner oil painters make? I will allow 3 responses, each for 1 point. No worries, Benji. All good. I will allow 3 answers for 1 point each. What is the biggest mistake that beginner oil painters make? As we put this shadow in here. Fat under lean, that's one of them. Details is another one. So there's one left. And Benji has exclamation marks. Not sure of this how specific the exclamation marks are. AK art. One more response left for 1 point. Biggest mistake that beginner oil painters make. Light is a possibility, but might need to be a little more specific with that response. What is it about the light? Yes, forgetting to tone the canvas is a possibility, but it's not a big mistake. It's not a big mistake. We're talking about the big ones, like too many details or doing fat over lean. Shading, you mean the values. Okay, that one's more specific. So yes, that will be the point there. Roger has a point for that one. Yes, trouble with values is another one. I'll tell you firsthand what the most common mistake that oil painters make, beginner oil painters make, is they lose their light and shadow. So that's why Roger was pretty close when he said light, but eventually he got shading. Light and shadow is typically the biggest problem I find with beginner oil painters. Of course, uh, messing up Fataverline is another one. Misuse black, that's true. Though that's more of a color thing. But the points have been awarded to uh, Alder, Grace, and Roger. So keep track of your points. We've got 7 minutes till. So this subtlety trivia will be a quick one. You've got 7 minutes now till we have to count them. Sniffing the cadmium. Yeah, that's true. All right, a point goes to Roger for making me laugh. Sniffing the cadmium. Yeah, don't sniff the cadmium. All right, so another point goes to Alder. Remember, you can simply just make me laugh and you can get a point. So, you can just make me laugh and get a point. All right, so next up for 1 point. Ooh, putting paintbrushes in their mouth. Yeah, that is a possibility there. All right, next up for 1 point. I'll let you know how many will be able to share the point. Try to make this interesting. Okay, so typically oil painters study drawing with either pencil, that is graphite, or charcoal. Tell me which one and why oil painters want to learn how to draw. Do they use charcoal or graphite? Graphite being what you'd think of as a pencil, like this. This would be graphite. For for 1 point, two answers are acceptable. Cadmium, you barely know him. Isn't that a musician? I think that's a musician. All right, making me think about the musician somewhat makes me laugh. Benji gets a point for that. Because yes, Cadmium is a musician, I think. So Benji gets a point for that one. All right, so Grace charcoal, but the part of the question is why. So why would they use charcoal? So Jeanette, charcoal, you're able to achieve values better. So that is correct in the sense that with charcoal, you can, yeah, that's one of the reasons. There's a few other ones of why you would use charcoal. You could also justify pencil What I want is for you to answer not just one of the materials, but why. Alder wrote charcoal allows value schemes quicker and kinder on mistakes. Okay, alrighty. So that is another logical answer. Charcoal allows, it's kinder on mistakes. So that's kind of going into the value aspect of it. Working with mass. Correct, correct, correct. And I did say that one was for 2 acceptable answers. And it is true, yes, paint takes on top of charcoals, but it does with graphite as well. I think at least I hope I've done that many times. So those point to Jeanette and point to Alder. Make sure to keep track of your points. See, isn't this much better than the silence? And of course, I'm still able to focus on the painting, so don't worry about the painting. Next up for 1 point. Let's make this about oil pastel versus soft pastel. For 1 point, only one question, only one answer, and whoever answers it first. Which one was invented first, oil pastel or soft pastel? For 1 point and 1 point only, first person that answers this correctly gets a point. Okay, Grace got that one, and I don't know the answer to this, but I'm pretty sure it is soft pastel. So Grace gets that one. I think it was soft pastel. I have no clue. I didn't look it up. I'm assuming that it would have been common knowledge to those of you that know more about it than I do. So very close, Jeanette and Alder, but Grace got that one. Next up, multiple answers are acceptable. Name 3 colors that you can use. 3 oil painting, acrylic, or pastels. Of course, watercolor is acceptable too, but three paints that you can use to make a skin tone. For 1 point, 3 answers are accepted. That means 3 of you will get 1 point, making this a little more competitive. Three colors that you can use to make a skin tone in either oil paint, acrylic, pastel, or watercolor. Yellow ochre, cadmium red, white, correct. Jeanette, yellow ochre, red and white. Uh-oh, the same answer. But you're safe because you said red and not cadmium red. Roger, brown, yellow, white. That is true. You can use a brown, a yellow, and a white. So Grace, Jeanette, and Roger get the points. Grace, Jeanette, and Roger get the point. Get it? Get the point? All right. So, next up for 1 point. And this will be the most logical answer gets a point. 3 points are available. 3 points are available. Why would a portrait painter tone their canvas gray? For 1 point, 3 answers. 3 logical answers are available, or you could just make me laugh. Now we're finally getting the curve for the corner of the mouth. Now we've really got to flatten all the scratchy stuff out. Okay, first goes to Grace. So Grace gets the point. There's 2 more answers available for 1 point. Alder gets that one as well to get a better understanding of value and corrections. 1 point to Alder and Grace. 1 more answer available for 1 point. Roger said for a base. Oh, for a base and harmony would have both been answers, but Roger got that one first. So remember I said 3. So that goes to Grace, Alder, and Roger. Grace, Alder, and Roger. Next up for 1 point. This is more about oil painting. For 1 point, 3 answers are available with no repeats. 3 answers are available with no repeats. Name a type of white that you can use in oil paint. Name a type of white that you can use in oil paint for no repeats. No repeats. So if somebody says 1, you can't say the same answer. For 3 points. I mean, for 1 point, 3 answers. 1 point, 3 answers. 3 answers acceptable. Make this a little more competitive. Okay, Grace got lead white. That's an answer right there. A very good answer right there. Jeanette, titanium. Okay, 1 left. 1 left. Laugh out loud is not one of them. Close, close. Almost made me laugh. Is a B. You went to a parade and I'm still, yeah, I'm still here. Although we've got, oh, we're actually almost done. That is going to be the last point, actually. I wasn't paying attention to the time. So whoever answers this one correct gets the last point of the evening. And flake white, even though Grace said lead white, flake white is a different name to lead white. For example, you can buy Old Holland, or not Old Holland, you can buy Williamsburg flake white, or you can buy Rublev lead white. So the answer, the point goes to Grace, Jeanette, Alder. Time to count your points, everyone. Count your points for the evening. Let's see who got the most points. I made it a little different this time, so it'd be a tad bit more competitive. A little more competitive. So you said no wonder never got oil pastels to do much. It does take some time and patience, I will say. But I mean, it's worth it though. The texture that you get out of this is something else. And thanks for joining, Benji. I'll get to play some pool in the next hour or so. So Jeanette got 10. Alder got 6. Thank you, Giselle. I managed not to completely bomb this painting. She does have some jewelry, but I think I'm just gonna leave it like this, just for the sake of time. So Grace only got 7. I know. I'm sorry, Grace. I had to do it differently. I had to make it more competitive. So does that mean we have a new winner for the night? Of course, Grace is going to come back with a vengeance on Tuesday. If we probably, I don't know if we'll do it on Tuesday. We might. It just made passing the time a lot better for me, hopefully for you as well. There's something about the silence when I'm just sitting here and painting, it just doesn't work. I think I paint better overall when I have something going on in the background. Okay, so looks like we have a winner for the night, Jeanette. Yeah, I know. I had to make it a little bit more competitive for tonight. Who knows? I'll probably come up with some other strange, but maybe somewhat fun ideas for subtle trivia. We should have one where you just tell your favorite art jokes. Like have an art joke competition. That would be kind of fun too. I hope I didn't totally bomb the painting. I think it's all right. I like the vignettes on the bottom. I don't want to do anything differently with it. So once again, special thank you to the model Grace from the Maryland Institutes in Baltimore. Thanks for letting me paint your portrait. Thank you, Grace. Thanks, Benji. Yeah, I'll be heading out in just a little bit on my way to Straight Light. maybe we can play some one pockets. Or hopefully Benji will, or not Benji, Dion will have the tournament. So of course, let me sign this before I forget. Just sign it down here. Barely legible. That's how I roll. Barely legible. Thanks, Alder. You can kind of read it. That's a Y. That's a UPAR. And my, just so you know, if it's an original of mine, the signature always has a dash on the I. And that's supposed to be a 24, though it looks like a 29. But sometimes barely legible is good. Although I gotta make sure that that looks like a 4. Looks like a 4 to me. And thanks, Jeanette. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Not an easy one, by the way. The more frontal poses tend to be more challenging. Oh, awesome, Jeanette. Yep, take care, Grace. We'll see you on Tuesday. I know you're going to come back with a vengeance for the subtle trivia. Sure, yeah, I can check out the Northern Lights. Alrighty. So that's all I got for you today. It seems like everyone wants me to paint a lion or some kind of pet portrait, so I'll think about it over the week. Thanks for your voting for the oil pastel. Maybe next time we'll do the soft just to do some, just to alternate. We will certainly alternate between the materials. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. I wish you the very best. And I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.